Hey guys, come see me do live stand-up comedy. Houston, yes, I am back. I'm so excited. The J Mohr Sports crew and the podcast crew of More Stories, we're all making the trip to Houston Improv, Houston, Texas, November 4th. That's a Monday. That's right, Monday. I'm going to do stand-up on a Monday. I don't give a shit. I don't need a weekend. I'll fill it on a Monday with your help. And also November 5th, Houston Improv. That's a Tuesday. Monday, November 4th, I'm at the Houston Improv. Tuesday, November 5th, I'm at the Houston Improv. Come see me also, if you wish, at the Brea Improv, November 22nd. I really hope to see you guys out there. Love meeting you guys, shaking your hands. I got a lot of new material, and as always, all my shows are meet and greets. Thanks. See you there.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game change.
Donuts.
If you want a battle, it's either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Hey, man!
Yes, Judd Apatow in the house, Fake Mustache Studios. But he has a real mustache and a real beard. You're a bona fide hirsute man.
Well, the issue is that my beard and mustache are going gray, but in a weird way. So, like, I have a big patch of white on the mustache, which looks like I might just have snot on it, but really it's like going gray in patches. And as soon as the beard goes gray, I have to go back to face again because I don't like looking at the gray face. Also, gray chest hair, I'm not happy with. Like, when I see, like, that's beginning to go gray, that's when I panic. So
mine's gray now, and, like, I don't know why, but I love it.
You do?
Yeah.
See, I'm panicking about it. I might literally go wax. I might do the full wax. But I think if I wax, like, literally, I'm just going to look like a woman with big boobs. I think that the hair makes it look like I don't have boobs because it fills the crevasse.
Oh, that's a good point.
But if I remove it, I think I'm just fully revealed.
Well, let's get real honest. When you shave, when you have shaven to go full face, be honest, how many times out of the thousands and thousands of times you shaved have you just for a minute for yourself and your own enjoyment, just left the Hitler mustache?
Most times, I do that most of the times. Yeah, you go like porno mustache, Hitler mustache.
I mean, eventually it comes off. You don't want to look like Michael Jordan in a Hanes commercial walking around with a bizarre Hitler mustache.
What was that?
It was Hanes. Like he was doing an underwear commercial when he was in first class in the airplane.
Yeah, but why did he do that? That was just like he was doing. What was the premise of the commercial that led him to the Hitler mustache?
Hitler loved underwear.
That was the premise of their campaign?
That's a fact. I mean, Hitler was like a stickler for...
it was just him and funny mustaches, and everyone was like, that's the Chaplin.
Yeah, that's the thing. Hitler really took away our right to say Chaplin mustache.
Nobody has ruined anything other than him like that. Like, there's not like another thing that was ruined
anything worse forever.
Yeah. Like, nothing has been completely wiped off the face of the earth. Like, you could say Billy Ray Cyrus ruined the mullet. But yet you still have mullet people, but you can't go Hitler mustache.
You can't, and you bring up a very good point with the mullet, because nobody ever says Bono ruined the mullet, but Bono was full mullet for a decade, like Wide Awake in America and Red Rocks. That was a straight Billy Ray Cyrus mullet.
I had a mullet for a while. I didn't know it was a mullet. I thought it was long in the back, tight on the sides, as I used to tell my
business
hair cutter.
Up front, party in the back. Where did you have a barber, like a neighborhood barber in New York?
I'm always just a go to anybody person. Now I know someone who can kind of make me look less bald. That's all haircuts are about now. It's like, who can make me look less bald? But in the day, I used to just drive down Ventura Boulevard and just anybody who cut hair, I would just go in.
But you have more hair than me, and maybe your hair's darker than me.
In the back.
Yeah, but who cares? That's just like a flesh yarmulke. That's fine.
But that's what's bad about certain TV shows. Is some shows don't have a camera behind you. But if you go on Charlie Rose or something, it's just a bald shot the whole show.
You've been on Charlie Rose?
I have been on Charlie
Those
Rose.
glasses of water, no one ever takes a sip from their water. It's almost like a Fincher movie. Like David Fincher directs Charlie Rose, just a perfect glass of water in the middle of a mahogany desk.
It's cocky to pick up the water and take your time there because you're in a black room. I mean, the whole room has got, like, I don't know if it's black felt drapes around it or something. So you feel like you don't know how long you're going to be in there. It's very compressed time-wise. And you don't think you can lay back because, like last time I was there, the people who made that movie about the tsunami were coming in. And, they're out there waiting to come in.
You're like, but I want to do Knocked Up. I got to tell you about Knocked Up.
I want to take a glass of water and tell you some more stories.
Oh, you definitely don't want to hit the water if tsunami people are waiting behind you. Just mock them. Look how much water we don't abuse. Look how we control water here.
I met them on the way out. On the way out, that's one of those awkward things where you really don't know what to say to the woman who was in the tsunami. Like this is so and so, and I'm in awe.
Surf's up, girl.
I've seen the movie. I'm in awe. But what do you say? You don't say
I don't
anything.
know. I guess just hi.
That's what I did. I said hi, and then I walked out.
We're recording live from a construction site. If you guys are listening to this in your earbuds, and now school buses are going back and forth. My kids haven't been on that school bus in 6 years, but they stop at my house every day. I think they're spies.
This is going to blow your mind, but I used to live in this neighborhood down the street.
Really?
On the bluff there.
Your buddy Kevin Nealon's right here.
He wasn't there when I was here. When I had
he waited for you to move.
It would have been if you guys were here. I might have stayed in the neighborhood. I might have fought my wife when she said, "Let's leave." And here's why we left. This says something about my world. In front of our house, one day, the street, like on one side, dropped like a foot, and then suddenly there were like cones and surveyors out there. And my wife said, "There's something wrong. Like we're going to fall into the ocean. The street's going to collapse because it's on a bluff." And then we would ask people, and no one really understood what was happening. Like, why is the street dropping? And then some people would scare you with their theories. Where most people would just kind of hang out, my wife said, "We have to move."
It's, by the way, I'm not joking. You'll see on your way home, all those cones and surveyors are still there.
Yeah, it's still there, but it hasn't dropped more.
No.
So we moved 9 years ago because of that.
How far away did you go?
Well, we moved like a mile away, and then we moved another like 5 miles away. But I love that house. And so
you got to show me what house, because that's like, if I ever did move, I would just move to where you were. I would just move 400 yards west of here.
Well, it's a beautiful spot because it's all ocean. It's crazy ocean view, but which sounds great. But what you don't realize is that it's just like a giant reflector for the sun that just boils your house, and that you literally can't look out the window because it's so bright all day long, and your view ruins your life.
That's the difference between directing, writing, and producing movies and trying to get in movies. You live looking at the ocean. I live looking at lunch trucks.
Exactly. That's
across
nice,
the
though.
street.
You see the children pass by?
Yeah, Kiki's lunch truck. And now there's Kiki's number 2. There's he's doubling up his business. But you mentioned TV, so I guess we can go sort of linearly. Freaks and Geeks needs to be spoken about because pretty much everybody that was involved with it went on to be like, not stars, but superstars, yourself included. And it must bother you. I mean, you're kind of ahead of everyone as far as what was cool, what was hip, and what was good. And shows, like Freaks and Geeks that get canceled. Do you ever look back and go, just want to have a conversation with the person that canceled it and go, look who's above the title in these last 18 movies. It's all the people from this cast. You had them.
They also live in this neighborhood. I used to bump into them.
Does it bother? I mean, it must bother you. At the time, that was your whole life.
Oh, I lost my mind when all of that was going down. When we did Freaks and Geeks, I had just worked at the Larry Sanders Show for 5 years, and I just thought, let's just do the Larry Sanders Show in high school. That was my thought about it. Paul Feig, wrote the pilot and created the show, and in my head, anytime we got stuck on something, I would think, okay, imagine it's a Larry Sanders episode, but it just happens to have kids in it in a high school. How would they respond in this situation?
Who was Hank?
Who was Hank? Maybe it was Sam Levine. But Paul from the beginning wanted to do something that was like a reaction to Dawson's Creek, a show that wasn't about all the gorgeous kids and all their romances. He wanted to show all the beatings he took as a kid and every humiliation that happened. And he said, let's just do the crazy, honest high school show that's also funny. That's about your friends and how you get through it because of your friends.
Right.
And the network the whole time didn't know what the hell we were talking about.
Is that its demise, that it's so real? Because that's the success of Girls, which is yours, is because it's so real. And finally we see average, everyday-looking people having sex in ugly ways and the real way. Like when you have sweaty New York City apartment sex over the sink and like your pants aren't even all the way down. You just pull them down past your balls just to get it done. Like now that's the antithesis of everything else. And now that's what's working. Mm-hmm. So it is weird that the pushback didn't work then and the pushback now is being celebrated.
I think it was because it was kids. You know, you could get away with it if it was Dennis Franz in
he would have looked
NYPD
weird
Blue. Yeah, well, he had some sex.
School.
I mean, he...
No, I mean in the high school on Freaks and Geeks.
Yes, he would have.
Hey, kid, how you doing? For the Chicago. I don't know if I told you I'm from Chicago. Yeah, you've told me 40 times.
And so there was things on TV that I loved, but I think children's suffering was difficult for people. I mean, there was an episode that we did where Jason Segel wanted to be a drummer, and the whole episode was about him auditioning to be in a local band, like a cool local band that needed a new drummer. And it led to his audition for the band. And all we did was show that he's just not good. And you weren't sure about that. You didn't really know he wasn't that good, but then when you saw him with real musicians, it was very painful as the musicians started looking at each other like, this guy's awful. And then the show ends, and that's just the end of the episode. Like, he's not going to make it.
Right.
And that, for television, was something that you didn't see a lot of, especially with kids. Like, oh, their dreams are not going to come true.
And that's
most
when the
of them.
Suits descend on you and go, maybe he can make the band. Maybe
why can't we have more victories?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they can get the girl. They were mad at us because he got the girl and then decided he didn't like her.
Yeah.
So he got the cheerleader and then decided that she was awful. And he broke up with her, so they didn't like that. Or Martin Starr caught the ball in the big baseball game, but then didn't realize that people were tagging up and scoring.
Right.
He didn't know what to do. So that was how most of those episodes worked. And then I was crazy, and I had a herniated disc at the time and was on Vicodin and yelling at everybody and crying.
Go on.
It was about as bad as
at Freaks
as
and Geeks. So
get.
you did it early, though. You got it all out of your system, and now you can just live life high on the hog.
Exactly. Yes, I had my pain at the time, and but there was also a sense of, well, what else can we do with all these people? They're clearly great. What do you do with all of these people? So we did Undeclared about college and used as many people as we could, and then made movies with a lot of the writers, actors, and directors from the show. But it's, I've said this before, but it is a little bit of a manic choice to set out to prove everyone wrong person by person. But I loved everybody, and I thought, I want to see a Jason Segel movie.
That comes from your stand-up days. You got to prove everybody wrong, each member individually. You got to. I mean, that's probably just in your blood. You were born a comic.
I guess so. It is like seeing that one person in the crowd not laughing, and you're just obsessed on that person. But that person becomes show business.
Right. Hi, I'm show business. Table of one. What? So I saw, I didn't know this about you until I just did like a cursory wiki. I knew what I wanted to ask you, but then when I did the cursory wiki search of you that you wrote for the Grammys early,
right.
Like that's got to be the strangest gig in the world. Are you doing punch up for like when Stevie Wonder goes out? Like Stevie, be really funny.
Well,
if you walked in the wrong direction.
This was the first big gig I had, was writing the Grammys with Gary Shandling when he was hosting. So at the time I was doing stand-up, I was writing jokes for Tom Arnold and maybe Roseanne. I wrote for Tom for a while, and then that led to getting the job writing jokes for Roseanne.
Right.
Which was the biggest move up in my whole life. Was suddenly I was on retainer. I had a yearly salary just to write jokes for
She wasn't going
Roseanne.
to let you out of her sight.
Oh, it was the best
Was
thing
it for
that
a
ever
stand-up
happened.
or for the show? It was for a stand-up.
It was just her stand-up. I couldn't get onto the show. I was just writing nightclub material for her. So I'm writing jokes for Roseanne and Tom, and then I remember this clearly. I met Gary Shandling at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, and my manager, Jimmy Miller, said, you should let Judd write jokes for you. I hear you need jokes for the Grammys. And Gary nodded, and then I never heard from him. And Then 3 months later, I get a call that Gary needs jokes for the Grammys. And I'm opening up for Kevin Rooney at the Dallas Improv, and the Gulf War just started like yesterday. And I'm such a bad comic that I don't even work it into my act. War just started, and I'm doing the same hunk. I'm not even adjusting my material. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to write so many jokes for him that I will be indispensable. If he needs 10 jokes, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to write 120 jokes.
Be undeniable, man.
And I remember staying up all night writing him so many jokes. And Gary...
But were they music jokes?
They were all monologue jokes about music. Now, this is how long ago it was.
Yeah.
One of my jokes was about Kiss as a reference of a band that used to be popular because back then they were in a fallow period.
Yeah.
And I think they've had 3 comebacks.
Yeah.
And have been huge since then.
Gene Simmons is Colonel Parker to everybody else.
Exactly. But back then, like, Kiss was not happening at all. I remember one joke I wrote, which was a lot of people ask why I'm hosting the Grammys. What's my connection to music? Well, my girlfriend used to do the guy in Uriah Heep. So I wrote him hundreds of jokes. And then Gary, who didn't know much about popular music at that time, he would just rewrite everything. And by the end of it, they were all his jokes. I didn't have that many that survived. But I got to go to the Grammys. I remember when he told me he was going to take me to the Grammys to be there when they did it in New York, which was one of the great moments.
What was like the big performance at the end? Whitney?
Okay, this is the Grammys where Jack Nicholson introduces Bob Dylan playing Masters of War, and the Gulf War just started. And Bob Dylan does a punk version of Masters of War, and no one knows what song it was. It was just indecipherable what he did. And then on the same show, Bono introduced a Lifetime Achievement Award to Frank Sinatra. And so Sinatra comes out.
I remember this,
and he clearly, he's very old. It's close to when he died. And he starts saying to the crowd, I wanted to sing for you people. I wanted to sing for you people. They wouldn't let me sing. You're so nice to be here. Why wouldn't they let me sing? And suddenly they just cut to commercial, like in the middle of him talking. And then Gary comes back and makes some joke about how rude that was that they went to commercial. And it was a whole hubbub backstage. How do you cut off Sinatra?
Right.
And during the commercial, Sinatra's still up there. He's kind of like half crying, like, oh, what happened? Barbara, what happened? And it's traumatic. And later we found out that one of his friends was in the director's area, and he was there to tell them to cut to commercial if it didn't feel like Frank was clear-headed enough to do the speech.
Old blue eyes. You don't want old cloudy blue eyes.
Yeah, and so that
milky blue eyes.
Yeah, and so his friend said cut to commercial. I don't know if Frank knows where he is. And
sorry.
And then I remember Billy Idol did "Rock the Cradle of Love," and they had the lady dancing behind the sheet where they'd have the big shadow of the pretty girl. It might have been the year "Tears from Heaven" won everything.
So this is the real upper.
Oh yeah,
everything is like Gulf War, Dead Kid, Sinatra doddering and forgetting
Tina
where
Turner,
he is.
I think won something. I remember where our little punch-up jokes during the show area was. We had to leave for a minute because in the middle of a song, Peter Gabriel ran in and changed his outfit. I mean, I remember every detail of it. And I took a picture with Springsteen, me, Gary, Springsteen, and in the background photobombing, Jody Watley.
Don't You Want Me? Was it Don't You Want Me? I love Jody Watley.
I can't list all the Jody Watley songs off the top of my head.
That's a disappointment. I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of the only reason you're in the garage. It has nothing to do with all your great work. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. First of all, we're going to get to the gals and all that stuff, but there's been many moments as a comic watching comedies, and when I go through your IMDb page last night, I went, oh my God, this is like 80% of every funny movie. That's my favorite funny movie, from Step Brothers to Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Knocked Up, 40-year-old version. It's astounding, the output. You're like Lennon and McCartney for producing and sometimes directing and writing hilarious films. But Paul Rudd sticks out to me. You pulled him from drama And I don't think people realize Paul was like a real, like I did 200 Cigarettes with him, and he was like an actor.
Yes.
He was a very serious guy.
From Shakespeare.
And now all of a sudden, like, he's the go-to. He will never miss a joke. Nothing gets by him. He can ad-lib his balls off. He's like the funniest guy. Even like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, he's just like that surf instructing guy.
Yes.
It's like hysterical. Now, you obviously had to have known him prior to that to know that was in him, or did he just come in and do an audition the old-fashioned way?
I didn't know Paul. Shauna Robertson, who produced Anchorman with me, she knew Paul, and I had met him briefly when I did that show Party, was it Dinner for Five with Jon Favreau, when he had that show. But I didn't know Paul. I saw him as just a great actor, a handsome guy from Clueless. And then he came in full mustache and in the outfit for his audition for Anchorman. Not everyone came in dressed up from the 70s. So he was fully committed and had that character, just brought in that character and was hilarious. And that was that.
Anchorman's one of the auditions that you have, like when I auditioned for Champ Kind, and then when it goes to Keckner, you're like happy. You go, oh, I couldn't possibly have done what Keckner did.
Yeah.
Like they made such a, of course I want to work, but that's like the best, other times it goes to like the fifth Wayans. You're not really sure who it is. You're like, wait, what? We're not even the same height. And then, but then with Champ Kind, Keckner getting it. And I remember in my audition for Anchorman realizing I'm not saying whammy right. Whoever gets this is
How
nailing.
Did you say it? Let's hear it.
Whammy. It was just too. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't. I knew as I was saying it, if I was making this movie, I'd be like, he's really good. The beats are good. The jokes are good. But he's not saying whammy right. And then you see Keckner just whammy.
Keckner's so
and
funny.
It's perfect.
And in the sequel that Will Ferrell and Adam McKay just made, Keckner is so crazy funny.
Wait, they cut you out? What happened here?
Well, they wrote it and Adam directed it, and I'm just a visitor, really. I mean, I'm supportive, but it's really their vision, and Keckner crushes in the sequel. I mean, we were just very excited. Everyone, they spread the wealth really well, but Keckner really gets his shots in. Going
backwards, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I'm a little obsessed with Russell Brand, and I think his comedy's okay, but anytime I see him do panel or any interview, I'm stunned and alarmed at how smart he is, how sharp he is. And he has a timing. His tuning fork is he's tuned differently than anybody, but in the best possible way.
Yes.
And then you see on YouTube, the listeners can go Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Russell Brand audition. You guys ask him to just ad lib. You're just trying to get your girlfriend out of the room.
Yeah.
And that audition, you have to know. I guess I'm asking. I'm not going to tell you what you know, but when you're watching Russell Brand explain horses and man meets beast, and he just goes down that crazy road, you go, who the hell is this person? B, we get him on the cheap if we ask him to sign the contract right now? Was it just done at that audition? To play Aldous?
Well, his agent called me up. His agent is Adam Sandler's agent. He's a friend of mine, and he said, will you meet this guy, Russell Brand, who's coming to town? He sent me some tape on him. And I said, sure, I'll meet him. And I don't know if I got it completely from the tape he sent over. And then he came in and was really funny to talk to. Everything that you see, walked in the door, and you think, oh, well, this is a special, unique kind of person you don't see very often. And then I went to call my friend Nick Stoller, who was directing Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I said, I think I just saw a guy who might be great for this part. And he said, oh, he's coming in right now. His next appointment is with me to audition. And then he called me back an hour later and said, oh, yeah, we have to hire him right now.
So was there anybody else like on the short list of Aldous Snows, or do you just leave that in the hand of the casting people? Or when you're producing this movie, are you thinking like, it'd be really funny if like so-and-so came in and actually could hit this out?
We had somebody all set to do it, and they fell out because of a scheduling problem.
Blair Underwood.
Exactly. And so then we had to figure out what to
Ironsides. Too big for his britches.
I don't think it was even a rock star. I think it was supposed to be an author, a famous author. And then we met Russell, and we said, oh, well, we can make him a rock star, and that'll work. And Stoller was great with him because a lot of it is figuring out his cadence and how it fits in life.
Yeah.
You have to slow him down a little bit, to create a personality that isn't just Russell's personality, that is this person, and still let him improvise and play and give you what he does, which is
I thought you guys
amazing.
did a really great job with it. And I don't know if enough people realize it. On Get Him to the Greek, he was so human and he was so kind. And Jonah Hill turned in the hilarious performance, in my opinion. And I thought Russell in the third third of the movie, I don't know how you director folks talk about it, in the last quarter of the movie was turned in like this incredibly heartfelt, dramatic thing that was out of nowhere. I was impressed with it.
Well, he's a serious actor, and what the movie's about is partially about a guy who's a drug addict, which Russell was. And so he was willing to go there. And I think, when Nick would direct those scenes, Russell really came ready to play and was brave about showing how he felt in those types of moments. But that movie, what we talked about a lot when we made it was, it was about, what do you do if you're in a rock band and your lead singer becomes a crazy drug addict? Do you end the tour and put him in rehab? Do you ride him out for the entire tour?
Velvet Revolver.
That was kind of the idea is, who's the person that says, let's stop and get this guy healthy?
Right.
Or do you just finish the tour? And Jonah's job was to make him deliver, even though he clearly needed to just go to the hospital.
Jonah drinking everything in that limo and smoking and when he finally shows up at the Today Show, that was the scene of all scenes where I was like, okay, Jonah Hill, check. I'm never ever gonna doubt a word this fucking kid says. That shit was so fucking funny. I'm getting my smoke on. Don't be a bitch. It seems I don't know why suddenly you've become, I don't know if divisive. Just like you celebrate women so much in comedy, and you really go out of your way to make to showcase how funny women are, very deservedly so. Like with Bridesmaids and with Girls. And then when you go back and read, and going backwards is treacherous on the internet, I know. But then you read about Knocked Up, and then you kind of take heat from Katherine Heigl saying it was like a sexist set. And I really dug what you said. No, we're like idiots. We're children.
Yeah.
That's how we behave when we're not prepared to be grown-ups or to have children. Do you feel vindicated with Girls and with, Bridesmaids and stuff like that? Or is that always, do you talk to Katherine Heigl and ask her why would you say that about me?
Well, I always thought it was silly. I can't say that when people talk about that stuff, it isn't annoying. But, I always looked at it the first main job I had was writing jokes for Roseanne. So I felt like I was always writing, for women. And I thought that the work that Paul Feig and I did at Freaks and Geeks writing for, Linda Cardellini and all the women on that show was strong. So I never thought, I don't know how to write for women. That's what I felt like some of our best work was.
Yeah,
writing these characters like Busy Phillips' character or Becky Ann Baker, who played the mom on Freaks and Geeks. So it did surprise me because what I was writing about was immaturity. And, what do you do if you get someone pregnant and you can't hang out with your buddies anymore and you thought you had about 5 years to party and lose your mind and suddenly it's just over.
It's over.
And your friends can't hang with you anymore. Because that's what happened when Leslie and I were expecting our first child. I remember Owen Wilson calling me at 2 p.m. saying, "Hey, buddy, you want to go karting?" And I thought, no, those days are over. Judd doesn't go-karting anymore.
Go-karting.
I can't go to the airport to go-kart. Now Owen has a kid. He's not going go-karting, I don't think.
It makes me so happy. If it was golf, I'm like, whatever. But the fact that it's go-karting makes me so happy.
And that's what the movie was about. Having to instantly grow up. And so as a result, you're trying to make Seth and his friends the worst people in the world and Seth the worst person to get you pregnant. And so inherently in the premise, the woman is more solid and she's career driven. So the pregnancy might mess up her career and the pregnancy is messing up his life of mischief. So what, sometimes people don't get the point a little bit. That happens a little bit on Girls where when people are annoyed by certain aspects of it, I always think, that's there on purpose. That's supposed to be annoying. It's supposed to be that she's a mess and she's making selfish mistakes. That's not an accident. Like, we don't know it's in there.
Right.
It is about the moment in your life when you're full of yourself and self-entitled and you're arrogant about what you think you can accomplish in the world, but you haven't done shit yet. And that's how we all were in that period in our early 20s.
And in Knocked Up, when I watched it, I never thought that the girl characters were shrill, her word. But I thought that the guy characters were abhorrent.
Yeah, well, she's the one who is doing the right thing.
Yeah,
she's
there's
trying
only
to figure
one
out
way
if he can handle it or not.
And you kind of, I thought, wrote it in a way, it was teed up in a way where, you like, if you ever get lost on how to play the scene, this is who you are, this is how they are, this is the only way you would react to these guys ripping bong hits next to a crib. Like you, and then it made me, when I overanalyze it, go, I think just she's shrill in real life.
I think the role was someone that has to deal with an immature person, so she has to be the stronger one. But
but then to complain that the script is it got immature, it's like when you got the script and told your agent, "Yes, I will be the starring woman in a Judd Apatow movie," because you agree. This is what you agreed to do. It didn't change. It wasn't like on day 14, you're like, you know what, we're going to go another direction. You're going to be like a nutty cunt, and these guys are going to be like the everyman, and we just can't figure you out, lady. Like, no, it's exactly the same as when you handed in the draft, right?
Well, it was very collaborative, and she was really easy to deal with and hilarious the entire time. So where that came from, I still don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. I hope she likes the movie. And
I got a surprise for you, Judd. Catherine, she's behind that.
But because I think she did an amazing job, and that's why the people like the movie. And who knows? We all do a lot of interviews, and things get taken out of context or emphasized. And in any given day, you can emphasize a concern you have.
Especially on the internet, people just pull one sentence and go, "Oh, look, there's drama over here," and but what I'm getting from you is this is completely wasn't a ripple.
No, we haven't had a bad word about it. But also, I all that matters to me is like I would hope as the years have passed that she likes what she did, because she did kick ass, and it would be sad if she didn't have a lot of pride about what she accomplished in it.
It seems like in all of your movies, every time I watch a Judd Apatow movie, whether it's directed, produced, written, or all three, there's always one person, I don't know where they came from, I don't know where, but it's like this new human just gets delivered to me like Russell Brand, like, here you go, America, you're welcome, I'm Judd Apatow, there's the guy. Yeah. And like Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids, it's just like, are you kidding? Your wife in Funny People, and that's, all right, I'll go back to that. In Funny People, is that a weird sell to a studio to say, oh yeah, my wife's going to play the lead? Do you go in knowing people are going to, is there a built-in bristle? Like, oh, now Judd's putting his wife in movies. Or because your wife did a great job.
Well, because her career was going much better than mine when I met her. So we met in the mid-'90s, and she was the lead in George of the Jungle, and she was, doing movies with Bruce Willis, and then she was, one of the leads in The Cable Guy. So that's never been a question, because the studios have always loved her work, and we're happy about it. There's certainly a danger in working with the person you care about most in the world, because we're putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
That's
and how do you give them notes in front of other people?
Well, that's not hard.
I would like you to play it this way. And she goes, well, I would like you to stop gambling.
Well, we don't have to, we don't argue too much in front of people about what we're doing. We will, we'll debate it in the house. So, I'm not waiting to the moment we shoot to have the first chat about the scene. We've talked about it for 2 years by the time we're in front of other people, and there's plenty of opportunities for her to say, why would the guy do that? That's not truthful. Here's what it would really be, and then we bang it around. Luckily she's hilarious, but she's very brave, and as far as I want to push things, she wants to push things farther. So we never have any of those issues. But I am terrified of just making her look bad or making my kids look bad, because what if I make an awful movie and it's just a humiliation to the whole family? That's where it gets weird.
Or let's say your wife's let's say your wife's the one shitting in the middle of the street in Bridesmaids, Is that something you'd go like, you know what? I'm going to let somebody else do the shitting in the middle of the street because I don't want my kids to see their mom shitting in the middle of the street in Bridesmaids.
Oh, no, she does. She loves jokes like that.
Oh, all right.
She has no...
But I'm just talking about you talking about your family watching the movie.
I don't think that's humiliation if it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, if you shit in the street and it's not funny, then I've done something terrible to you.
I shit on the beach this morning. I'm not going to lie to you. I really did.
You have to. You have to. But
you have to.
So, you know, if the work's good, everything's fine. But no, we're not precious about any kind of weird, you know, dirty things. I've had her do all sorts of terrible things.
It doesn't seem that way at all. It just but going back to the point, like Eric Bana, like that's a guy no one ever would have thought Eric Bana was going to show up in Funny People and be that funny, that knuckleheaded, and that like punch people, like he's punching people in the face, but he's kind of kind. It's like, and that's when I'm watching it, I'm thinking that's like kind of hard to play. Like he's knocking people out, he's protecting his home. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you want to go hang out? Like it's like the weirdest thing in the world.
And
but
he loves his wife, and he cheats on his wife. I mean, you know.
But somehow he's likable.
He's likable because Eric Bana is likable, and that's where I start with all the casting. You know, if somebody's likable, they can get away with anything. W.C. Fields was likable, so he could want to hit a child, and it was okay. You know, Bill Murray can get away with anything because we like him so much, so he can play all sorts of awful
He hits children all the time. I don't know. That's on his wiki page.
Is it on his wiki page?
Yeah, that's why he couldn't run for governor of Iowa. Stop hitting children.
So... I don't know what
Eric Bana.
So Bana, I knew Bana from that movie where he played the criminal Chopper. He's in this incredible movie called Chopper, and he was a comic in Australia, and then he played this...
I didn't know Eric Bana was a comic.
He started as a comic, and then he played this vicious criminal in this very popular movie in Australia. So I knew he could be funny, and then I loved him in Munich. You know, we weren't joking and knocked up when we were saying how much we love Eric Bana in Munich and how he's the Jew that finally gets to kick ass. And so I thought, well, it'd be funny now to have him in the next one.
Yeah.
And then I went and had lunch with him, and he told me about his life and his interests. And, you know, I found a way to put a lot of the things that he is interested in the movie, like Australian League football. And, you know, then I start writing it to him.
I can never write a movie because I can never sit with an actor and have them tell me what they like, because as soon as they just got off what I like, I would just tune out.
You're too selfish.
I'm
to
completely
have other
selfish.
Characters.
Oh, absolutely. I want, you know, I'm a number one. But yeah.
Well, that's good though, because like for me, the issue is I care so little about my own feelings that I'm only servicing everybody else. You're not being a people pleaser. You have a healthy enough ego about your own greatness. I'm nervously trying to make everyone else happy.
But that's the dichotomy of me, is I'm an egomaniac, but I obsessively need to keep everybody around me happy.
So
because if they're unhappy around me, then I'm not, my egomania isn't fed.
I see.
Like if people are like, that guy's a dick, I'm like, well, how am I a dick? Tell me, let me rectify this, let me fix it, and then you can think I'm really cool when we walk away and we shake hands and we're bros again.
So you have complex egomania.
I don't know if anything about me is really complex, but I definitely have egomania, and then an insatiable need to be liked.
When did we met for the first time? Was it at SNL when
yes,
Adam Sandler was over there and I was visiting?
Ashku.
What were the years you were there?
92, 93.
So that was right in the prime time of all those guys first getting to the show.
Lunch Ladyland.
Dang, who did you play?
I opted out because I was having panic attacks and I couldn't imagine myself dressed as a bean dancing in the background. And then in hindsight, my wife and I still have this conversation. She goes, I wish you were in like a bean suit. And I'm like,
said no.
I couldn't breathe. I was having a heart attack and I was going to the emergency room telling them I was dying, and they kept asking me what drugs I was on. I'm like, no, I'm not on anything. I'm dying. And they're like, okay, what drugs are you on? So,
I've had panic attacks. Oh my gosh. I used to have them. I was working on a punch up of Happy Gilmore and working really hard with Sandler and Tim Hurley, who wrote it. And
Timmy.
And I just put myself under a lot of pressure that shouldn't have been there. You know, I would think to myself, you know, this movie isn't good. It's all my fault. I mean, I'm just there to help, you know, polish it up and figure some things out. But in my head, like, well.
But you just said you never make anything about you. But in this situation, you made the entire Happy Gilmore process about you.
Yeah. I was people-pleasing you by pretending it's not all about me.
Oh, you read my mind.
I doubled back on you.
Before we got there.
And then I flew.
He's a mastermind.
Here's how my panic attack started. I flew to a wedding. I stayed up all night. I didn't sleep. I flew to a wedding, and I'm watching the wedding, and the bridesmaids get up and they sing Bryan Adams' "All for Love," and I lose my mind. If you saw my brain, it just melted. It just melted and came out my ears, and I was gone, like in a very serious way for a long time. And so I had to leave. So I left the wedding of my cousin, and I watched it through a small hole in the door because I couldn't be inside
because it was in a speakeasy.
And I didn't know, what it was. I just knew my heart is going 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm claustrophobic. And I'm losing my mind. Yeah. It took me days for someone to tell me what it was. I just thought, oh my God, I've gone insane. Yeah. And then I was then I had to fly home. So I get on the plane.
So from where to where?
I'm flying from Boston to LA with a stop in Chicago. And I'm flying home, and on the plane, I get the craziest feeling like I have to get off the plane right now, but we have another 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And the guy next to me has one leg.
And he's singing Bryan Adams.
And he's wearing workout clothes and drinking a lot of beer. And I'm like, how's he going to get to the bathroom? And then I called my manager, Jimmy Miller, and I'm on the phone with him for the entire flight. I'm just going I don't know what's happening. You just have to talk to me the whole time. I don't know what the guy with one leg was thinking because I'm just talking about that too.
He's probably thinking, I wish I had two legs.
Exactly, so I get away from this asshole. And then we land, and I don't know what's going on. I just think I'm tired. I might just be tired. I'm exhausted. So I fall asleep, I wake up, and then I say to the stewardess as I'm about to board the plane, I'm kind of nervous. I don't know if I can do the next flight. I don't know. And all I wanted her to do was say, you know what? It's going to be fine. And instead what she said was, on or off? And I just went, off. And I literally checked into a hotel and got under the covers.
In Chicago?
In Chicago.
I can't believe you're telling me this.
Called my therapist, and then he explained what a panic attack was. I didn't know what it was, and I had to call a friend of mine and tell him to fly to Chicago to take me home. I couldn't leave. And I would have claustrophobia walking outside in Chicago while listening to Alanis Morissette's first record. So I would listen to "You Ought to Know" while having a panic attack walking around Chicago. But I didn't know it was a panic attack. I thought I was just insane. And then as soon as I saw my friend, it went away. And then I had it on and off. I mean, to this day, I can't sit in the middle of a row at a play or something where I think, oh, if I get up, the actors are going to yell.
Brian Dennehy's going to go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't want Bill Nighy to point me out in the middle of...
That happened to me at Batman Forever. I was at the premiere. I'm in the middle of the row, and I'm surrounded by everyone in show business. Mike Ovitz and Michael Eisner and Nicole Kidman, and I'm in Jim Carrey's row, and I'm sitting next to Gary Shandling, and I just say, I don't think I can sit here and watch this movie. I don't feel good. And so as the credits start, I get up, and I'm walking past everybody, bumping into all their knees. And as I pass Jim Carrey, he goes, sit down, you're ruining the movie! Like joking, but I'm actually having a nervous breakdown. And then for years, as soon as I would start a meeting with someone, all I would think was, if I need to leave, how am I going to leave? Okay, I'll say I have to go to the bathroom. That'll give me a break. And then if I come back and then I really need to leave, I'll just tell them I had some bad Pollo Loco and I think I have food poisoning.
Poor Pollo Loco.
And I would run that.
Pollo Loco does get a bad rap.
It is the go-to.
So good. It's good. It's good.
Excuse.
But it is the go-to, sorry, we had Pollo Loco on the drive up.
Every time.
Yeah, I mean, your house in Stone Canyon's nice, but we had Pollo Loco
I used to
before
come
we came
home
here.
drunk at 16. My parents would go, what's wrong with you? I have bad Pollo Loco. This is bad.
That was a Kennison excuse at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what he said. Bad Pollo Loco, you're right. But here's the thing my therapist told me, Judd Apatow, and that is you are a grown-up and you can leave whenever you want. You don't need anybody's permission to get up out of a movie. People leave movie. How many times have you been in a movie and somebody hasn't left? Yes. Or in a play when someone's not getting up and leaving? And my big thing was flying. Yeah. And she says, what is it about your panic attacks? And I said, it's just I lose control. I have no structure. I need structure. And she said, there's nothing in your life that's more structured than a flight. You know months in advance when it is. You know when you get on. You know what time it's supposed to take off. You know what seat you're in. You know how long it takes. You know where you land, and you know where to go when you get off. And when she said that, it went away.
See, that wasn't it for me. It wasn't about structure. It was just the randomness of me flipping out.
Well, that's what it is.
Fear.
It's the release of life-saving levels of endorphins and adrenaline for no reason. When people go like, well, I have really bad anxiety, it's like, no, you don't even know what Judd and I are talking about. Anxiety is your boss rides your ass every day, and then when you drive to work, you get a knot in your stomach because that guy's going to ride your ass again. Yeah. A panic is you're at you're watching Bridesmaids sing Bryan Adams, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I'm having a stroke. I should get out of here so I don't evacuate all over myself in front of everybody I enjoy.
Yeah. The thing that helped me the most was just the simple advice to not try to make it go away. That's like taking a mirror and just stepping on it and breaking it into 1,000 pieces to allow yourself to experience it and feel it and realize that it's fine. And that if you just feel it, you can tell like, oh, it's just this. But in the beginning, oh my gosh.
My Dr. Noel Taylor said no one has ever died from a panic attack. And she pointed to all of her desk PDRs, whatever they are, with all those books. She goes, I got these in 18 different languages. There's not one reported death from panic attack.
Yeah. So have you ever gotten one? So you used to get them at SNL as you were about to perform.
Yeah, I got one right before Farley's Scared Straight sketch where he comes out as like and yelling at us all to not go to jail. And he's like the prisoner and he's all sweaty. And at that time I was prescribed Klonopin.
And you had one in your pocket all the time.
Yeah, always. The little Klonopin pocket. But they gave me, the wardrobe gave me pants with no pockets. Like I don't know what they were. And I remember like the panic just starts there, but it's like I'm obsessing over the pants and the wardrobe department. Like, what kind of people give someone pants with no pockets? Like, what kind of, this isn't show business. I need pockets. Like basically what the people that hold signs and yell about the government on the corner begging for change, what they say is what people like you and I are saying when we're in the middle of a panic attack. So I held them in my hands and my hands were so sweaty because I was dying that I thought they were going to evaporate. So I had to hold them just
and
right.
Shake him around like a raisinette you don't want to melt.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And then the costume people are like, Jay's turning into such an asshole. He's like wants pockets in his pants. He doesn't even need pockets.
Yo, they better have pockets. But the thing was when Farley walked in, it's just the sun came out.
Yeah.
The clouds go away. He was the most beautiful man in the world. Is it true the Cable Guy was written for him?
Cable Guy was written for Chris and he wasn't available in a certain time period, and I think some of those powers that be just wanted to make that movie, and they offered it to Jim.
Wasn't available because he was tied up with other things, or wasn't available because it wouldn't have been right at that time for Chris to be
I think the SNL season was happening because we shot the movie in winter, and he wasn't available.
Well, Jim Carrey's a pretty great consolation prize for crying out loud.
Yeah, I don't know all the backstage politics of how that decision was made. I was always trying to make a movie with Chris Farley. Ben Stiller and I wrote this Revolutionary War comedy that starred Ben and Chris Farley in the mid-'90s, and we did a table read with Danny DeVito and Charles Dutton, and it murdered. And we were so excited, and we wanted Farley to agree to do it. He had to do it for us to get it made, and he just said no.
Wasn't into it?
He said no.
But then he did like that Lewis and Clark movie with Matthew Perry, and you're like, wait, that's the shitty version of what Judd had.
Oh, yeah. I worked on a whole bunch of different ideas for Farley. I could never get him to do anything, and I did.
Do you think he thought it was territorial, like you were Sandler's guy?
I don't know. I don't know why I couldn't crack the code of it. It was a little more complicated back then, I think, to book people into projects. There was more politics with the different agencies and management companies and what everyone's plans were for these people. And I was a nobody. I hadn't done anything that would make you think I would screw it up.
You wrote for the Grammys, bro.
I wrote for the Grammys.
You wrote Roseanne jokes.
I wrote 3 Tom Arnold specials at that point.
That's right.
But
good man, Tommy.
But Farley was, I think, the funniest person in person that I've ever been around.
Ever.
And I don't think anyone comes close. And the energy he had, I don't think there's no way to even describe to people what it was like to sit in a restaurant with Chris Farley while he talked to the waitress.
The only way I could ever explain it, and I always go back to it, is it's the sun. It's the sun. And it burns bright, and it can only end one way. And I've never met anyone like you. I never met anyone that made me feel the way I felt when I was around Chris. The joy, like when you were a kid and you have that one uncle that'll just throw you in the pool for hours. You're like, he's the best. But that times 1,000 because you're a grown up and Chris is just saying hi. And it's just this light he would have and just throw on you. And you just started giggling when he was talking. And when just, how are you? Well, my favorite Chris thing, well, there's no one favorite thing, but in any sketch where there's small talk, like a courtroom right before the gavel goes down, and people have to go like peas and carrots, hubbub, hubbub, Farley would go, murmur, murmur, Spade's gay, murmur. He would actually yell murmur because it would say in the script, murmur, murmur, and he would just scream it at the top of his lungs. What is Judd short for?
Nothing. And I have no middle name. My parents didn't bother to give me one. They gave my brother one and then didn't bother with me.
What's your brother's middle name?
Charles.
What's your brother's first name?
Robert Charles Apatow.
So how about you just take Robert as your middle name and just tell him what are you going to do about it? Come meet me in the Palisades. Let's throw.
That is possible.
Let's get some,
although I think my middle name now is that when I got married, my middle name is Man. I think it's legally Judd Man Apatow.
My middle name is my wife's maiden name.
Yeah, so I think that's what it is now.
But you would know. You did the paperwork, no?
I did, but I never see it land in other paperwork. Like I filled it out, but I've never seen anyone send me something that said Judd Man Apatow.
You do a voiceover for Fruit of the Loom, and it just says Judd Apatow. You're not going to correct them.
Yeah, I thought it'd be nice if it got out. I have to say, one of the saddest things just about everything that's happening in modern comedy is that Farley isn't around to be a part of it. I mean, that is just a tragedy that it's hard for people to grasp what they're missing if he got to do this ride with everybody.
Yeah, Bill Murray's a guy. Like, we have this discussion a lot on the podcast, as you know. You told me you listen to it a lot. Like greatest cast member of all time, like after the fact, greatest cast member as they were there. Mm-hmm. And you brought up a really interesting point. Like you don't know anybody that was as funny as Farley in person. Mm-hmm. Just if he walked into this garage right now, we would be here for 4 hours. Yeah. And he would like literally pick up an ashtray and put it up to his ear and go, huh? And we would be done. Like,
well, if he was leaving a restaurant, like if he left first, he had to get somewhere, you knew as he walked by the window at the restaurant, he was going to do something crazy. Yeah. Like you would be terrified for the moment, like, oh my God, he's got to pass by that window. What is he going to do?
And the last restaurant, he did the going down the stairs gag. So now it's going to, he'd fall or act like he was getting choked out.
Or just talking to strangers. You know, when everyone was first starting out, and people had that mad funny because they hadn't made it yet. There was a lot of interaction with strangers that was hilarious. You know, Farley just walking up to a woman going, I'm in town on a convention. I got $50 and I want to have some fun. What are you doing right now? And that would happen all the time before they were famous.
Back in the day. I mean, Kevin Meaney's HBO special, he went out in the street and talked to strangers.
Well, Sandler used to do this thing at the Improv that made me laugh, which is he would stare at someone across the room until they saw him staring, and when they locked eyes with him, he would not look away or smile till they looked away because they got uncomfortable, and then he would continue to stare at them till they had to check a second time to see if he was still staring at them.
While he's doing his act?
No, just like in the restaurants. He would just look at someone and just go, and just stare at them like a madman. And you can't do that when you're a gigantic comedy star. Or, I mean, he would just yell at people on the street. And it was, you'd be afraid to go around with Adam a lot because he really wanted to interact with people.
Really?
In elevators.
Yeah, see, when I signed on, he was the most famous one.
Yeah.
He did, like, it was, Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore were right there, and it was Sandler's world.
Yeah.
So we would go out, and I was never a part of the group. It was always like a freshman hanging out with seniors. Like, they're letting you walk home with them, but you're not a part of the crew, let's be honest. But if you went out to a restaurant, everybody, like, let's just get there as quick as possible with our baseball hats on. Once we're inside the restaurant, we will break the waiter's balls mercilessly. Yeah. Sandler had one of the funniest ad libs. We were trying to go up the night elevators, and you needed like a special swipe card back when they were new. Like, I'll swipe my card, and I can go into any elevator in the building, even though it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And Sandler didn't have his card, and I was with Sandler. I don't know why, but we jogged to catch the elevator because there was a businessman going up to the Rainbow Room, And the like Nigerian night watchman goes, no, you can't go up there. And Sandler goes, no, it's okay. We're gay, though. We're gay. we're two gay guys. We're going to go upstairs and suck each other off. We're gay. And the guy goes, what? He goes, we're a couple gay guys. We're just gay guys. He's not gay, but we're gay. We're going to suck each other off and go upstairs. It's okay.
And then they let you in.
Yeah, but he like put his hands up to let the guy know, like, no, it's
okay.
It's okay, you know. You don't know. No. And the guy just turned around and walked away. Like, what do you say to that? Like, you can't be in this elevator. No, it's okay. We're gay.
Well, there was all that energy when you didn't have movies and you weren't on TV, or you were just beginning to get on TV, but you weren't allowed on that much, that would get used in other ways. That's why Adam made phony phone calls all the time when we lived together, because he was so funny and had all this energy and no job, basically, other than 20 minutes a night at the Improv. But he had 10 hours a day of comedy energy with nothing to do. He had nothing to do with it.
And that energy's got to be weird in an audition, like when you're talking about Elvis, mini Elvis in your refrigerator. I just want my lettuce, man, you know. Like his act was so off the beaten path.
And would bomb a fair amount of the time. I mean, his act wasn't foolproof at all. Some nights the crowd would lock right in and he would kill.
Yeah.
I remember taking him to the San Diego Improv, and I got Dave Becky to let him like be the headliner on a Monday night, and Adam just died for 50 minutes and he just leaned back against the brick wall and ran it. He just ran the act because the crowd just did not get it at all. And then other nights, people would totally understand him. And
what's the transition, Judd, when you go from being a comic, and you're right about Adam's act, and that's what I liked about it. And when I saw him on Letterman, it was working. It was all like, you know, mini Elvis in my refrigerator, like, I'm the king of rock and roll. Why are you standing on my lettuce, you know? And like all that stuff, it's so weird and so bizarre. And if they don't go with you, you can't get them back. There's no crowd work. There's not like, well, move on to it's all
and
that
it's not one-liners
energy.
and the next one will work. Like you're in like a conceptual idea for 3 minutes.
So what's the transition from that to becoming the actual biggest comedy movie star in the world? And the jokes are pretty right down the middle. Like he somehow obviously went, that is it a conscious decision of that doesn't really pay the bills, and once you start banging out Happy Gilmore's, there's enough private jokes for me, but this is what America. Is there a conscious decision to write for middle America, or does his sense of humor change?
Well, I think, you know, if you look back at those movies, they're much weirder than you remember if you rewatch Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison.
He's in fucking fifth grade. It's weird. You know, it's not like he had to repeat his senior year in high school.
Exactly.
He's with 8-year-olds at a little
He's
desk.
drunk and a penguin is chasing him. I mean, there's a lot of like creative, very bizarre
Norm's
stuff.
in it.
Exactly.
I just sit here, you know.
But I don't know. I remember Adam auditioned to be on Saturday Night Live, and it was a night at the Chicago Improv, and I think Rock might have been in that audition as well. I know Spade.
In Chicago? It's weird.
Yeah, it was in Chicago. I mean, I know like people like Dana Gould were on that audition, and I'm trying to remember if he joined right when Rob Schneider and David Spade joined, or he was like just a few months after them. And I remember thinking, how's he going to get Saturday Night Live? He doesn't do any characters at all. He has this kind of hilarious act, but he just kind of like mumbles and does these absurd jokes. And then he came home and said, "Yeah, I'm going to go do Saturday Night
Cajun
Live."
Man, Opera Man,
and then suddenly he had all these characters. Yeah. Then he's doing impressions. He's doing Axl Rose, like this other side of Adam that he didn't do on stage. He would never do an impression in his stand-up act. And then suddenly he has all these impressions, and he got on the show because he wrote his ass off in the beginning. And he did something really smart: is he would write a great sketch to make Dana Carvey kill, and he would give himself a tiny part. But his little part would also kill very briefly. So he'd give himself a little moment. But he wrote for other people for that first year. And most people don't know the sketches he wrote in that year. Like I think he wrote the pepper sketch, the peppermint, the fresh pepper.
Grazie.
There was that one.
The juice?
Where they're like kissing.
The waiters that keep making out. Do you like the juice, or was that Schmeigel?
Oh yeah, I know
like
that was Schmeigel's, but I don't know if they did it together.
You know
maybe.
the falafel stand?
Yes.
You like it, the juice,
Yeah,
huh? It's a good juice.
And so then he's worked his way in, slowly. But I think everyone's trying to figure out, what communicates to people.
Does anyone take more shit than Adam? It seems like every generation has a guy like it's Jim Carrey for a long time, and before that it's Robin Williams was in the barrel for a long time.
Yeah.
It just seems like whoever's at the top It's like being the star running back. Everyone's just like, he's going to fucking fumble. Watch. He has to fumble. He sucks. Fuck you. And like Reggie Jackson said, fans don't boo nobodies. So he must be doing something extraordinarily well. But what is it that people are like irate? Comics, like angry comics.
Well, there's always a big element of jealousy to anyone who's successful and successful for decades and decades. I mean, if you really,
Dane Cook took a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, the second you're selling out Madison Square Garden, people are just very angry with you.
But somehow Dice escaped all the wrath of comics.
Well, Dice crashed. So
I thought he was a one-off.
I think because he had bad years, everyone was very excited to welcome him back. I mean, if Dice was doing Madison Square Garden for the last 15 years straight. But again, Dice, another person, really strong comedy choices.
And great impressionist.
And I used to see him in the East Side Comedy Club.
Doing Pacino. His Pacino was so good, when he turned around, you knew which movie it was from. You're like, that's Dog Day Afternoon Pacino.
I saw him when he only did impressions when I was 15 and I was a dishwasher at a comedy club. And he used to come in and just do like Travolta impressions.
He's a brilliant impressionist. And the thing about Dice, you talk about being brave to go out and say that stuff. And like when he was on Saturday Night Live, Nora Dunn boycotted the show. Remember that?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone got the joke. And I remember there was a night at the Comedy Store where Jim Carrey was supposed to go on. And he was on In Living Color at that time. He wasn't a movie star. And he got bumped by Dice. And then he got bumped by Kinnison, and now they're like an hour and a half behind. And so when it was his time to go on, he stayed on stage till the club closed. He refused to get off for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Because he was mad that they bumped him. And he did the greatest 2.5 hour improvisation I've ever seen to fill that time. But I don't know. Everyone takes shit. Don't you think like anyone on top, people are trying to figure out,
right? But there's specifically like Adam, not Dice, Adam, Jim Carrey, people you work like stars.
Yeah,
it just seems like I guess it just boils down to jealousy because like my sister who lives in Louisville, Kentucky, just goes and sees the movie, buys a ticket, and with her friends, and they have a good time. And I live in a bubble in West LA.
Both of those guys have done everything. So it makes no sense to have any issue because both of them have done some of the great independent movies like Eternal Sunshine, The Spotless Mind, and Punch Drunk Love. They've done really silly, movies that are just madness.
But
They've
Sandler
done
was great and funny
comedies.
people. I thought it was a real good dramatic performance.
Oh, that was the best time ever, and he's endlessly creative, as is Jim. But, there's only been like 6 or 7 guys who've made it like that.
That's true.
So who else are people going to attack?
I having worked with Jim Carrey and having worked with Adam, I wasn't with Adam when he was where he is now in the atmosphere way out. But when on the wonderful Burt Wonderstone, I worked like a week. But being with Jim Carrey and seeing, like in the makeup trailer, he's already at work. He is like digging down the rabbit hole.
Sure. Oh, he's walking the halls at his house at midnight.
Yeah,
running that scene.
He had tattoos put on his chest that no one ever saw to help him get into this crazy magician character. Yeah. So I guess I was going to ask you, out of all the comics you've worked with, who really worked the hardest? Well, maybe to the detriment of like, bro, you got to stop calling me like this. We're good here. We're like. I don't want you to say anything negative about anybody.
But I think it's
use it as a positive. Like they're that passionate about it.
The guys who are on top of the world, who are the biggest guys, are the hardest workers. I mean, if you look at who's been around and who's making a lot of stuff, it's because they work their ass off. I mean, I used to get hired by Jim, a month before some of his movies started to just sit in a room and go over every line and see if there's anything else he could do, any other joke he could make. And then he would memorize the entire script. He could literally say all of his lines in a row from the entire script.
Can you imagine being with that guy like during The Grinch? Like a regular movie, you go, all right, he's playing like Dick and Jane and all that. But like when you're the Grinch and you're memorizing the Grinch and you're becoming the Grinch, I don't know how you go home and just like heat up a steak.
I think some people are totally consumed, when they're working. I mean, Sandler works his ass off. He works for months, rewriting those movies, and he's in every aspect of it. And these guys have made a lot of movies and a lot of great movies. I mean, I think everyone, it's like records. There's certain bands, and you think, that's the great record. Someone will go, oh, Quadrophenia is the great record. And someone else will be like, no, it's Who's Next. And, but they've done so much stuff at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of remarkable if you go, well, here's all the comedy albums he made. Here's all the weird appearances on TV. Here's all the awards he accepted where they did like an amazing speech. Some of the best things these guys have done have been really weird acceptance speeches on like the MTV
Well, going back
Awards.
to Russell Brand, he spoke to Parliament about like drug addiction, and we need to not put people in jails. It's a sickness and needs to be treated as a sickness. And they tried to laugh him out. And like all the Guardian, all those papers were like, look, haughty-taughty naughty boys coming to Parliament.
Sure.
And then he just absolutely outsmarted everybody out of the room where he demanded to be taken seriously. But you're one of those people, people probably have no idea how hard you work. How many scripts do you have in your house that are like the bane of your existence because you just can't let them go?
You can't crack them?
Yeah.
I mean, at
What's
any
the over-under?
given moment, there's maybe 4 to 6. There's not a ton because I don't have any infrastructure.
Well, I've written none. So 4 that you haven't made when you're Judd Apatow to the casual listener is like, holy shit, just make them. You're going to be a quadrillionaire. I don't know if I think I made that up. But like 4 scripts that are finished.
Oh, well, I'm talking about things that I produce because a lot of what I do is overseeing other people writing. I mean, I have a few scripts of my own that I've never been able to get made or get cast. It's never fallen into place with the right people.
What made me think about it is when I read, God, this is years ago, that you were going to do Make Amends with Owen about an AA guy going around and having to apologize to everybody. Yes. I'm like, this is the movie. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the movie I need to see. This is perfect. And then it just kind of doesn't work out. And then you go, again, you do that cursory wiki glance or whatever, the IMDb, and you go, oh shit! Like he never even made that. Like you got great movies that you've written for friends that maybe he couldn't do it because he was go-karting.
Well, that one we
Callback,
couldn't get the
ladies and
studio to make it because they had no sense of humor about AA and alcoholism. And so
What's funnier than alcoholism?
Exactly.
Why do you think Christmas is bearable? Because people get drunk and they fall down into the Christmas tree.
Exactly, and it was just. But I was trying to make that movie before Owen became a big star, and so I couldn't get them to take the leap and say, "Let's bet on Owen that he's going to make it." It was right after Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket didn't make a lot of money, and I was saying, "I think this is going to be the next guy," and they just said, "Well, not we don't believe in Owen, but just we're not willing to make a $15 million investment in your guess," and that happened for years. Where me and other people would say, I think there should be a Will Ferrell movie. And people wouldn't back us with the belief that Will Ferrell is going to be a gigantic international movie star. And people would say to our face, no, we kind of don't think so. And then finally he breaks through and it happens. And I'm sure for anyone who's made it, there have been people who've said, I don't think that person is going to make it. But it took a very long time for anyone to believe that our opinions about who would make it could be trusted in any way.
When you have a script like Make Amends and you can't get it made, do you put it away and it's done because it'll make you crazy to think about? Or do you just periodically go, does it like stoke a fire in you every once in a while? And like you said, you have 4 or 6 of them in your house.
Well, sometimes you're just out of the moment of creation and you can't, it's probably like writing a song and trying to
That's what I was going to guess too,
halfway through. And you just can't get the vibe again. You'd have to probably spend months re-immersing yourself in all your research and what you were trying to talk about. That is a script that I liked, and I have reread it, and I always get lost. Or I get lost in the casting. We were going to do that with Rip Torn and Owen. And we read it at my house once, just the 3 of us. It was pretty amazing to see Rip Torn read something that you wrote. But sometimes you just lose your step with it.
What's the fastest script you ever wrote?
Me and Steve Carell wrote The 4-Year-Old Virgin pretty fast. We pitched the idea, and the studio said, "We'll make this. Just get this done. We'll make this."
Going back to your old point, a studio that goes like, "We don't think Will Ferrell's going to be a huge star," like Steve Carell, complete unknown.
Yes.
And then 40-Year-Old Virgin, he's the only guy in the poster, to the point where I'm in comedy, I'm driving by the poster, and I'm going, I can't really figure out who this guy is. So that wasn't a hard sell?
Well, a lot of people turned that down, but Universal didn't. But other people did.
What was it? What was it about it that was it just because the script was so damn funny and they trusted you? Why was Universal so willing to?
Because they wanted to make Anchorman.
Oh.
And they said they were willing to make Anchorman at a moment when DreamWorks wasn't sure if they were going to make it. And then DreamWorks decided to make it. And I think they wanted something like that. And they were having a lot of success in comedy at the time with Meet the Parents, and felt like they could sell comedies with new comedy stars. And they
bet on you, but they also bet on themselves.
Yeah, they knew they were good at comedy and selling them, and then Carell was in Bruce Almighty and was hysterical as the newscaster.
Yeah.
So they had a sense of, oh, that guy's really, really funny. And I think they thought the concept was sellable if the movie was cheap enough. And then that, Will succeeding from Elf, and then Anchorman, and Carell succeeding with The 40-Year-Old Virgin, sent a new signal to the studios, which is there's a great business in breaking the new guy.
Yeah.
And so suddenly when I said, let's make a Seth Rogen movie,
yeah, okay, I was going to say.
I didn't seem like a lunatic where just a few years before they literally would have laughed in my face. And I think that even now, a lot of people don't go to the movies. They wait for things to hit Netflix or whatever. One of the reasons you would go to the movies is because you hear like, this person you don't know is crazy funny.
Yeah.
That might get you out of your house. So there's an appeal to a new comedy star. Like when The Hangover came out, most people didn't know Zach. And so it was exciting to see him, like a new band. It was like he was like breaking like a great new band.
That's a great analogy. And Steve Carell, maybe the nicest human being on planet Earth, because he was producing Wonderstone, and there were days where Jim just didn't feel it, just didn't. And speaking to his creative process, and this is not a slam at all, it's like, this is how passionate these guys that are at the top, like you said, the reason they're at the top is they're so obsessive at staying at the top and being that great and being that funny all the time. Whereas Jim, if there was a day where he was like, I'm not saying this right, he would literally tell them, today's not the day. And that's, that's $400,000 just out of somebody's pocket. And I would ask Steve Carell, like, hey, what's going on? He says, yeah, it's, he would tell me what would happen. And I'm kind of, I'm the lowest guy on the totem pole. And I'm standing next to Alan Arkin. I'm not going to go, what the fuck's that about? So I'm trying to vibe out Carell, but he's just got like this idiot smiling at the sun, like nothing bothers this guy. And if ever anything was going to bother you, it's like you producing a movie and you can't work that day. And like I learned more from watching Steve Carell produce the wonderful Burt Wonderstone than I've learned from anybody telling me life lessons like this is how you got to treat people and this is what you got to say to people. Watching him interact with people and everybody, like Teamsters, caterers, people acting like absolute assholes, and he just keeping that genuine smile and just going, that's life. I've never seen anybody with that disposition.
Yeah. It's that's exactly what he was like. All the times we've worked together, we just did Anchorman 2, and he hasn't changed at all.
Thank God.
And what you learn is that it's just going to get done. So if Jim says, you know what, I don't think we've found the scene yet, it's not happening, somehow they will figure out something else to shoot. It really won't cost $400,000. They'll just like have to make some adjustment in what they're doing. And then the next time they do it, Jim will find it. And when you've been through enough work, you realize me flipping out is not going to make this go better. And most people can't help but flip out. And I'm probably more like that because you feel like if the movie's bad, it'll ruin my life. And this moment is the beginning of everything
still feel
caving
that way?
in. Yeah,
you're a made man. I mean, you're a made man at this point.
But luckily, that feeling on some level doesn't go away because it just drives you to pay attention.
What's the worst flip out you had on a set?
The worst flip out I've ever had on a set.
Where you were like, you had to call people and go, I didn't hang.
A lot of times the script supervisors get upset and storm off because we do so much improvisation and I need them to track everything. And then when I turn around and have to shoot the other actor and I have to match what happened on the other side, if they don't keep really good notes.
And they have to time code it and they got,
And it does. And what I'm asking them to do is impossible. And since then I've hired additional people because what I was asking one person to do could not be done, and I certainly have had my moments there. But
Like, what do you mean you don't remember what happened yesterday at 10 in the morning and how much coffee was in the clear coffee cup?
how can you not remember this 11-minute run that Steve Carell just went on?
But, to your credit, you remember it. And I guess that's why you're the director, and that's why other people work at script supervising and other people work in wardrobe. You see it all. You're like the field general.
Well, that's the hard part about directing is you're paying attention to everyone's job. You're not doing everyone's job, but you do have to pay attention. Sometimes people get mad at me because I will want to cover a scene in a way that I think makes a joke work more than makes a scene look good.
Right.
And so I've had conflicts with people where they're mad because I would say, no, just go and tie it on his face. I got it. This will match. We'll be fine. And they think, oh, you're going to make the scene look really shitty. and I don't like you for that.
It's odd that at this stage in the game, people just don't trust you implicitly and say, well, Judd obviously knows what he's doing. You're not some like kid out of film school.
Well, this is more in the beginning. And now you find, I found people to work with who understand our process and how it works. So it's a little bit easier now. But yeah, there were many years where people would look at me and not understand what I was talking about. When we did the first movie, when we did The 40-Year-Old Virgin, a lot of the crew worked with Clint Eastwood, so they were used to doing one take. And we would do a lot of takes, and sometimes we would just run out the mag and let Seth and Paul Rudd do, How I Know You're Gay for 10 minutes, and then another 10 minutes, and then another 10 minutes. And I could definitely see people on the crew who were not pleased with our approach.
Yeah.
And that
was Clint. How did you get Clint's people? Was it a Warner Brothers movie or?
It was a great cinematographer who worked with Clint Eastwood. So it was, the crew that shot a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, but they didn't know our sense of humor, so some of them got it, but there were a lot of people who just looked like we were just whacking off all day long. If Seth has 2 lines and I decide to do 10 minutes of improvs to make sure those 2 lines are funny, there are people who just they want to go home.
And all the people that you work with, if ever you want people to improv as much, like I've seen all the Step Brothers outtakes, and I'm like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
There's got to be more. Sarah Marshall, like all the outtakes. You're like, you want just anybody financing a movie, because I know all money people listen to this podcast. Just order extra mags of film and let Judd do whatever he wants to do. This was fun talking to you, bro, and I got to congratulate you, girls. And I loved your speech at the Golden Globes. Like your big FU to the establishment was cool as hell, and it's a perfect show. Like, it's not usually like a guy will go, this is like my project, and you go, well, that's really good, but no, like it's perfect. Like it so encapsulates what happens at that age when you're really not making it the way you want to make it in Manhattan, myself included. Yeah. Like just everything's sweaty. It's either always too hot. It's either always too cold. Nothing really fits right. And then every once in a while, you get together with your friends and just magic happens. And that's what you hold on to and through all the garbage that happens.
Yeah, I mean, Lena Dunham, I saw her movie Tiny Furniture, and I just thought, oh, there's a kindred spirit. And so for me, it's been a dream project because she's so talented and really can do it all. And all you're doing is trying to feed her machine and figure out how you can support her, how you can help her pace her time. And when she needs ideas, pitch ideas. And, and I have a great relationship with her because I just said to her, you're in charge of everything. You have final say over everything. I'm just going to tell you my opinion, and I'll pitch you some ideas, and I'll try to look for leaks in the boat, but it's all yours. And so we just get along great. And then I don't have to stress out because I don't have final say over anything. And I'm just someone trying to serve, her vision. And I have to be careful that it is her vision because I don't actually want to, take her off her game or.
Who's the guy that plays her boyfriend?
Adam Driver.
Okay. Again, somebody that you materialized out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, I cannot get enough of this person. Like the most unique character, like every choice he makes is so fucking weird and and perfectly weird. Like we all know that guy. And maybe not literally that guy, but like the weird things he does and his idiosyncratic stuff. It's so brilliant, this kid, that when you're on a set watching this guy, I mean, obviously Lena and all the girls are terrific, but that guy's amazingly funny.
And he created so much of that. Lena wrote a great part, but then he just took it to all of these other
Like,
places.
she wrote the stuff like, would you fuck me if I was a baby? Like, if I was a baby, would you have sex with me then? Like, I'm guessing that was written, and then he just ran off.
Yeah, if there's a dirty talk run, Lena's written some, and then he just continues.
About being a toddler. Like, if I was a toddler and we were both toddlers, would you still have sex with me? Like, I think he's like in the pilot, actually.
I couldn't track what was from the script and what wasn't, but man,
let's ask your script supervisor.
Exactly.
The second one.
The one in tears.
Yeah, not the one with the ruler with the string on it.
But you do want those people who can create the character with you and keep going. If you say, all right, you're having sex, I want you to say all sorts of disturbing stuff.
And then when the two guys get together, I was watching one episode where like the guy, he just took somebody's dog.
Yes, he stole someone's dog.
And then the other guy that owns the joint, though, when they get together, like they hate each other, then they somehow like come to this weird, like it's just the most bizarre It's just. I thought I was going to be washing your balls, but I'm washing your balls, and every creation you've ever had's balls. Girls is just worthy of all the praise it gets, and anybody that thinks otherwise can suck my balls. How's that? Guest editor of Vanity Fair. How much work was that?
That was a lot. When you do something like that, you never know if it's just in name only or you help out with 1 or 2 articles. But they really let me do it for 5 or 6 months with one of the editors, Dana Brown.
That's how long it takes to put together.
Well, the way
Fair?
I did it. I mean, I don't know if that's how people usually do it, but I knew it wasn't going to be till the Christmas one, and so I had a lot of time. And I just look at that as an excuse to find ways to talk to and interact with my heroes. So I think, oh my God, I have to get Steve Martin to do something. And so we took a picture with me and Steve Martin, and I interviewed Albert Brooks and took a picture with Mel Brooks and Carl
Albert
Reiner.
Brooks wants to do stand-up again.
Oh, he should.
He wants to bad, but he's obsessively paranoid about getting heckled.
When we did This Is 40, we did a couple of panels with the audience with him taking questions, and he's so funny. You cannot believe it. And I pray that he decides to do it. It's just a lot of work to start up again. And I think everyone is terrified of the cameras and everyone videotaping you as you're, trying to get rid of your rust.
Him and Shanley are the two guys that you're like, just please leave your house and do something. Like, I need more from Shanling because he barely does anything.
Well, he does stand up. He's out there and he goes to the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach. So he's definitely performing. But Albert, I don't think, has done actual stand-up since back in the day.
I think they both gave us they gave us like 3, like they gave us 10s 3 times in a row, and then they were like, all right, I'm just going to wait a little while, and we were just like, feed me now culture, like, what do you mean you stop? You just modern romance, you can't stop.
Exactly.
You're just defending your life. What do you mean you're taking another 5-year break? I need you now, you prick.
But I now get that I've done a bunch of stuff where you just want to live your life at some point, and we all obsess so much. Comedy is a job you take with you everywhere. So you could be running it in the supermarket and running it in the car and not sleeping at night. And it must also be nice to not do it for hunks of time.
Yeah.
And we just want them to never stop.
Yeah.
But I think that the pressure to keep it at that level must be brutal.
Judd Apatow, I don't want you to feel pressure,